So if you're dealing with fibromyalgia, you don't need to tell me that you're having a hard time finding good solutions for this issue. I get it. My mom had this problem long ago before she passed away, and I didn't know any of this information back then. So when I hear from clients or followers who improve this situation, it's a whole lot of fun for me. So I hope I get to hear from you too. Now in this video, I'm just going to give you a quick overview of 5 steps that most commonly help improve this situation for most people dealing with fibromyalgia that I've encountered. Just understand that the step that could help you the most is really going to vary from person to person depending on what's creating the problem for you. There's a variety of possible underlying causes that can create this. And just know that it's not going to be a situation where you can just, I can just take this pill and I'm going to fix everything that's been going wrong for 30 years. This problem is probably a significant problem in your life. So I don't want you to have the viewpoint of, I can just simply pop a pill and fix a significant health problem. It's just not how the body works. It's going to take some effort and you're probably going to have to understand some things. But we'll rip through these steps real quick, and if you need to dig into them a little bit more, you can check out my other in-depth video where I really dig into all this stuff a lot more deep and help you understand why these things come about and steps you can take to figure out which underlying cause is most likely creating it for you. I go over all these studies to help you understand that this information is in the scientific literature. It's just not being taught to most doctors. And keep in mind that I'm not a doctor. I'm not giving you any medical advice. This video is just going to be for educational purposes, right? I'm just a schmuck comedian turned nutrition author because when I lost my voice for 8 years, 23 different doctors couldn't help me figure that out. And I had to dig in and find my own answers. And now I just share what I learned through my books and through some courses to help people find their own answers. So when we're looking at fibromyalgia, it's really just a situation where a person's having a whole bunch of pain and we don't understand why it's happening. Sorry about your luck. So we want to look at what's usually going on. Is it seems to be an issue where the body is having trouble due to the way that it's creating energy. And a lot of you are probably saying, well, yeah, I have no energy, so that's probably not the problem, because it's very common to see like chronic fatigue syndrome type, tiredness going on when someone has this issue. So what goes on is the body really likes to create energy through what's called cellular respiration. And in order to create energy that way, oxygen is needed to make that process work. But for a wide variety of reasons, sometimes we just don't have oxygen at the right place to make this happen. So the body has this backup plan that it can create energy through fermentation when there's no oxygen available. So this process, the body doesn't create as much energy. It can create a lot more energy this way, but at least it has a backup plan. Now, when it creates energy the right way, the exhaust, the kind of the byproduct that comes from that is carbon dioxide or CO2. And we know that when we exhale carbon dioxide. So that's a pretty easy way for the body to get rid of the exhaust that comes from creating energy this way. But when the body has to create energy through fermentation, the byproduct of that is lactic acid. And that can be harder for the body to get rid of. It can convert it to glucose and use that as fuel, but that sometimes has some hang-ups to it that we'll kind of talk about in a second. So what's going on with this issue is it's usually a case where lactic acid is accumulating and changing the pH of that interstitial fluid, kind of the fluid around all the tissues and the cells in your muscles and such. And as that lactic acid accumulates, that acidity is basically like frying nerve endings, and it just creates a lot of pain. So we're looking at an accumulation of lactic acid in most cases, and the reason that the lactic acid is usually accumulating is because the body is creating energy through this fermentation process most of the time. It's not using this cellular respiration like it should. And when it's doing this most of the time, then a lot more lactic acid is accumulating. It's faster than the body can really get rid of it. So this happens usually because there's this oxygen utilization problem where maybe a doctor will put a pulse oximeter on your finger and say, oh man, your oxygen's great. The problem is that the oxygen can't get down to the tissues where it needs to be. So we're just going to talk about some things that can create this problem and push your body into creating energy this way that's really creating the problem with this lactic acid. Okay, so the first thing is that high blood sugar can kind of change some things with calcium, where calcium is going to be in the body. It can kind of affect that, and that has the ability to kind of make oxygen get trapped in the blood. So if somebody has high blood sugar, and especially if they're leaning insulin resistant, where the body's just not processing carbohydrates correctly, that really has to be corrected. So that's step number one. If your blood sugar's high, or if you're leaning insulin resistant, that has to be corrected. And the best way to do that is a non-keto low-carb diet. Now, if somebody was using a ketogenic diet, they may really bring their blood sugar down, effectively, and that may really help. But a keto diet long-term can create some of these problems as well. I explain that in the more in-depth video. But doing a low-carb diet is step number one. That's usually going to help a lot of people because a lot of people are leaning insulin resistant that are dealing with this issue. Now, the problem is if you have any digestive symptoms at all, then your digestion is not having the ability to really break your food down correctly and get all the minerals and nutrients out of that food. So when you can't digest your food correctly, you're going to have a hard time really sustaining this low-carb diet. So step number two becomes fixing any digestive symptoms that you have at all. I talk about that in a lot of videos. I'm not going to go into that here, but we have a totally free digestion course that kind of walks you through figuring out which aspects of digestion are not working correctly and what steps you can take to improve that situation. So I'll put a link in the description below this video for that totally free course, and you can dig into that if you're having any digestive symptoms at all. Okay, now the next issue that can push the body towards this is at the cellular level, the body should be in what's called a catabolic state during the day and an anabolic state at night. And some people have the ability to get stuck in one of these states. They don't move back and forth from day to night like they're supposed to. And if someone is stuck in what we call the anabolic nighttime state, most of the time it can push the body into creating energy through this fermentation process more often than it really should. So again, that can really elevate that lactic acid, since lactic acid is the byproduct of creating energy this way. So if that's a problem, we really need to create cellular balance and fix that imbalance. That free digestion course that I told you about shows you how to figure out if you're leaning too far in that direction and steps you can take to fix that. But if that's a problem, that's going to continue to create this issue, and it's going to be hard to fix this fibro problem. The next issue is if someone has a bacterial overgrowth, like in their stomach or their small intestine, then those bad guys have the ability to also create lactic acid. That type of lactic acid is a little bit different, and sometimes it can be even harder for the body to get rid of. So if someone has some type of overgrowth issue, they could be accumulating lactic acid from multiple areas, from different directions, and it can really accumulate fast that way. So fixing some type of overgrowth has to happen if somebody's dealing with that. And we have a lot of videos that go over, natural ways that someone can reduce an overgrowth. We talk about it in that free digestion course as well. And finally, a B1 deficiency has the ability to create some trouble here. B1 is kind of one of the cofactors that the body needs in order to make this work correctly. So if a person is deficient in B1 or thiamine, it's also called thiamine, then this process doesn't work as well. So then the body's like, oh, I got an idea, I'll just do this instead. So then they're having this problem, and that creates all that lactic acid. So some people say that you can just take, a high dose of B1 and this will fix all your fibromyalgia problems. I haven't really seen that, but I view this as a viable step that's worth taking. But if you're going to take B1, you also want to take a B complex, 2 or 3 times a week, just to make sure that that B1 can work correctly. So once you understand that it makes sense that there's a lot of confusion about this in the scientific world, they just view it like, oh, well, this guy wasn't insulin resistant, so that's not the cause of fibromyalgia, and oh, well, this person didn't have SIBO, so that must not be it. They're looking for one thing to cause this for everybody, and that's never going to happen. There's a variety of issues that can create this. So you may already be saying like, oh yeah, my blood sugar is really high. Oh, I just have to fix that, and then I can create some improvement here. Oh, I haven't pooped since Valentine's Day. I know I got digestive issues. So some of these things might jump out, but if they don't, dig into the more advanced video where I really walk through all these things and help you understand how these problems can come about. They'll make a lot more sense to you, and also steps you can take to really get this in motion. You can see there's only a few steps that are really possible to improve this situation, but some of these steps can be complicated. It can be complicated to fix insulin resistance, and some digestive issues need a lot of work to really fix those. So dig into that a little bit so you understand. All I got to do is do the work, and I get to see some improvement to this. But I hope that helps you understand that this problem makes sense if the body is stuck creating energy this way. It's creating this lactic acid problem. And if you can correct this and just let the body work the way that it wants to work, then most people are going to see a lot of improvement here. So if you want to dig into this a little bit more, jump over right now and check out our video on fibromyalgia, a deep dive solutions. I can't wait to hear about your results.